There's a difference between ignoring a woman out of insecurity and ignoring her from a place of power and control. One pushes her away, the other draws her in like a magnet. So today, I'll break down the 6 psychological pillars of ignoring a woman the right way, so that she starts chasing you like crazy. Most men ignore women from a place of frustration, bitterness, or emotional immaturity. They do it hoping she'll feel bad, miss them, or come running back to apologize. But that type of behavior is obvious, and worse, it's repulsive. Women have extremely sharp emotional radars. The moment your energy reeks of insecurity or revenge, she'll instinctively pull away further. So, the art of ignoring her isn't about punishment. It's about creating emotional space. When done right, this space becomes a psychological mirror that forces her to reflect on who you are, what you mean to her, and whether she took your presence for granted. Imagine this. You've been texting her consistently, always available, always responsive. At first, she enjoys it. She appreciates the attention, but as time passes, she grows accustomed to it. Familiarity turns into expectation, and expectation leads to entitlement. She stops seeing your efforts as valuable and starts assuming they'll always be there. The chase is gone. There's no tension, no mystery, no thrill. She knows you're only a message away, a call away, a compliment away. That predictability kills desire. It flattens attraction. Women don't consciously plan this. It's an emotional response wired deep in their psychology. When the emotional stakes are too low, interest fades. Now flip the script. You decide to pull back, not to hurt her, but to shift the dynamic. You become slightly less available. You take longer to reply. You don't initiate as much, and most importantly, you don't announce it. You don't explain or complain. You simply create space. At first, she might be confused, then curious. She'll wonder if you've lost interest or if someone else has your attention. That confusion leads to emotional discomfort, and emotional discomfort leads to obsession. Women need to feel something, and space creates that feeling. It reintroduces the unknown. The emotional air becomes charged again. Suddenly, your absence becomes more noticeable than your presence ever was. This is the exact moment where the seed of desire starts to grow. Because you're not just disappearing, you're allowing her the space to miss you. You're allowing her to feel what life is like without your constant energy. The silence starts to echo. She replays your last messages, wondering what shifted. She starts checking your stories, your posts, your replies. Her imagination begins to build a narrative. Maybe you're losing interest. Maybe you're tired of the dynamic. Maybe there's another woman. And here's the powerful part. You didn't say a single word. You didn't argue. You didn't chase. You didn't demand more. You simply stepped back. And in that stepping back, you reclaimed your power, because emotional space is a powerful mirror. It forces her to confront her own behavior. Was she reciprocating your energy? Was she taking you for granted? Was she valuing your time, your effort, your masculinity? These are the questions she begins to ask, not because you told her to, but because your absence triggered the reflection. That's when she starts chasing, not out of guilt or manipulation, but because the void you left behind has weight, emotional weight, and the only way for her to lighten that weight is to re-engage with you. This time with effort, with vulnerability, with desire. Creating space is not about withdrawal. It's about elevation. You're not removing yourself to hurt her. You're rising to a level where she has to climb to reach you. You stop making yourself emotionally convenient. You stop being the emotional doormat. You position yourself as a man with boundaries, with purpose, with inner calm. A man who can walk away without drama. That energy, it's irresistible. Because at her core, Every woman wants a man who doesn't need her, but one she has to earn asterisk. And that starts the moment you learn to ignore her, not from weakness, but from quiet, centered strength. Most men don't realize that pretending to be busy and actually being busy are two entirely different realities, and women know the difference instantly. You can't fake purpose. You can't fake direction. If you're ignoring her but still lurking around her stories, still posting empty quotes, or still checking to see if she noticed your silence, then your ignoring becomes transparent. It's not power, it's performance. She sees right through it, and instead of drawing her in, it confirms her sense that she has emotional control over you. But when you're genuinely immersed in your own world, building, growing, and moving with intention, your absence carries real weight. You don't need to pretend because your time actually has value. You're not acting busy, you're consumed with purpose. Whether it's your career, your body, your mindset, or your goals, when these things take priority, your focus naturally shifts away from her. And that shift is what pulls her in. A man who has something to live for, something to grind for, something to sacrifice for, is dangerous in the best possible way. He becomes magnetic, not because he's playing hard to get, but because he simply doesn't have time to be easily caught. You are no longer orbiting her life. She's now watching you from the outside, wondering how to get back into your universe. She starts checking your progress, trying to interpret your silence, decoding your energy. Why? Because true purpose is rare. Most men fold under a woman's presence. They put their ambitions on pause the moment a pretty face gives them attention. But when you don't fold, when you stay locked in on your path, she feels the difference. It's not just that you're not texting her. It's that you're too focused to even think about it. And that's a shift in power. When a woman senses that she's no longer your emotional center, it throws her off balance. The man who once craved her attention now seems indifferent to it. He's not ignoring her to play a game. He's simply outgrown the need for constant interaction. That indifference isn't rooted in malice. It's rooted in progress. She starts to realize that you're not seeking her validation anymore, and that realization breeds tension. Tension breeds curiosity. Curiosity leads to pursuit. She starts texting first. She starts asking what's new in your life. She begins reinitiating contact, not because you pulled away, but because you elevated. Your elevation makes her feel like she's missing out on something special, something real. That's the psychology of attraction at its finest, not through manipulation, but through motion, consistent, focused motion forward. When she finally reaches out, don't drop everything and run back. That's the test. Stay rooted in your purpose. Respond with the same calm, composed energy. Let her feel that while she was debating your silence, you were evolving in silence. You weren't trying to be noticed. You were becoming someone worth noticing. That's the power of true self-prioritization. It doesn't scream for attention. It commands it. Now, silence is often misunderstood by men. They either overuse it as a tool of control or avoid it entirely out of fear. But silence is not about ghosting her. It's not about giving her the cold shoulder or making her feel disrespected. It's about breaking the rhythm she's used to. If you've been overly responsive, always available, always emotionally predictable, then your silence shatters that pattern. And in relationships, especially early connections, pattern disruption, is everything. People don't value what's constant. They value what's rare. If she's gotten used to your energy being ever present, your sudden quietness becomes a jolt to her emotional system. It interrupts her comfort, and that interruption creates space for reflection. When you don't respond immediately or don't initiate conversations like you used to, she begins to feel the absence. That absence speaks louder than any message. It whispers questions into her mind that she can't ignore. Why has he gone quiet? Did I do something wrong? Has he lost interest? Is he talking to someone else? These questions don't come from logic. They come from emotional dissonance. Your silence becomes a puzzle she has to solve, and the more unanswered the puzzle, the more she obsesses over it. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't argue. You simply chose to let silence do the talking. And silence is powerful because it cannot be argued with. It's an energy that demands attention without begging for it. The moment you stop reacting, you rob her of control, not in a cruel way, but in a balanced way. You reclaim your emotional independence. Women test men emotionally all the time, whether consciously or not. They poke, they withdraw, they shift behaviors just to see if you'll chase, if you'll crumble, if you'll try harder. But when you meet that test with stillness, when you let silence respond instead of emotional outbursts, she realizes she can't play that game with you. You're too grounded, you're too unfazed, and that lack of reaction is what sparks renewed attraction. Don't underestimate how rare this trait is in men. The average guy reacts immediately to a shift in a woman's tone. He seeks validation, asks questions, over-explains, and gives his power away by trying to fix what doesn't need to be fixed. But a man who uses silence with precision knows that every second of non-response is a second she spends thinking about him. And when a woman is thinking about you more than you're thinking about her, the chase has already begun. When a woman notices your silence during moments where she expects a reaction, she's thrown into a psychological loop. This loop is not about your words, it's about the absence of them. Most women are accustomed to men who respond emotionally. Whether it's through anger, frustration, validation, or affection, most guys react and that reaction becomes the fuel for a woman's emotional dominance. But when you choose silence, not passive aggression, but strategic, intentional stillness, you remove her access to that fuel. And now she's left in a space she's not familiar with. Emotional uncertainty. That space forces her to do something rare. It forces her to think deeply. She doesn't just feel your absence. She begins to analyze it. What caused it? Why now? Was it something she said? Did your feelings shift? Is someone else taking your place? The feminine mind thrives on emotional clarity, but your silence denies her that clarity. And when a woman can't understand your silence, she becomes obsessed with trying to. This is where your silence transforms from passive to powerful. It becomes a mirror. She starts reflecting on the last interaction, what she said, how she acted, whether she's losing her grip on your emotions. You don't need to say a word, because her mind is doing all the talking. That internal dialogue becomes louder than anything you could ever express. And ironically, the quieter you become, the more chaotic her thoughts become. She wonders if you're upset, disinterested, or possibly moving on. But what truly drives her crazy is the idea that you're at peace, that your silence isn't emotional withdrawal, it's emotional control. She realizes you're not playing the game on her terms anymore. You've stepped into your own frame, and that shift is magnetic. Silence also breaks patterns. If you were once reactive, always explaining, apologizing, defending, or justifying, then your silence now acts as a sharp contrast to your former self. That contrast triggers curiosity. She'll try to test you again, maybe with indirect comments, subtle jabs, or emotional distance of her own. But if you stay centered, if you allow her energy to bounce off your stoicism like a wave crashing against stone, she'll begin to chase, not because you're manipulating her, but because you've shown that you are unmoved . And that's rare. Most men crumble under feminine pressure. Most men crack when silence is used against them. But you use silence as a shield and a sword. You protect your peace and strike through her assumptions without ever raising your voice. The most beautiful part about using silence as a weapon is that it forces her to reach deeper within herself to reconnect. She realizes she needs to approach you differently. The manipulation stops. The games start to fade. She shifts from emotional dominance to emotional vulnerability, all because you stayed silent. And that's not something that comes from arrogance. It comes from discipline. It comes from understanding that not every message deserves a reply, not every shift deserves a reaction, and not every conflict deserves your energy. Your silence, when rooted in strength, becomes louder than anything you could ever say. A weak man explains himself to everyone. He justifies his actions, his delays, his absence, and in doing so, he hands over the emotional steering wheel. He's still trying to prove something. He wants to be understood. He wants her to know he's busy, tired, focused, or upset. But the moment he tries to explain himself, he lowers the mystery, he removes the tension, and he gives her control over his emotional state. But a man who is confident in his value doesn't owe explanations. He lets his energy do the talking. He lets his absence be felt. And when she asks why he's been distant, his answer is calm, brief, and unrevealing. I've just been handling things. That's it. No details, no emotional breakdown, just a soft barrier that says, I'm grounded. I don't need your validation. The less you explain, the more you protect the masculine frame, because explanation isn't always connection. It's often exposure. You start revealing your inner workings too soon, and suddenly she feels like she's figured you out. And once she feels she knows everything, the mystery dies. And where mystery dies, attraction soon follows. That's why powerful men remain emotionally reserved. Not because they're cold, but because they understand the psychology of tension. They know that the moment you remove all questions, you also remove all pursuit. When a woman is unclear about your emotional state, she becomes curious, and curiosity is the foundation of attraction. Think about it. When something is fully understood, it's safe. But when something is only partially revealed, it becomes irresistible. So, when she texts and you don't respond right away, when she calls and you don't jump to answer, when she tries to pull an explanation and you don't pour your heart out, she's left with questions. Those questions create tension. And tension leads her right back into your gravitational pull. She begins to pay more attention. She tries to interpret the tone of your responses. She starts watching you instead of expecting you to watch her. You flip the power dynamic, not by force, but by restraint. This also reveals a deeper truth. Women are not drawn to men they can control emotionally. They are drawn to men who are centered, unshakable, and slightly unpredictable. Not in a chaotic way, but in a calm, mysterious, grounded way. A man who knows that silence isn't a weakness, it's a strategy that keeps him in control of his frame, his power, and ultimately his desirability. She wants a man who can walk away without flinching, who can ignore her without bitterness, who can sit in silence without folding, because that man is a rare breed. He's not emotionally dependent. He doesn't need to be understood, and because of that, he becomes the very mystery she longs to solve. There is a very distinct difference between a man who disappears and then feels the need to explain himself, and a man who simply moves in silence with zero emotional dependency. The moment you begin explaining why you're distant, why you've been quiet, why you haven't texted, you hand over the psychological upper hand, because whether you realize it or not, explanation is a form of validation. You are indirectly saying, "You matter so much that I need you to understand me." And while that might seem like a fair or honest thing to do, in the realm of power dynamics and attraction, it's a mistake. Because the person who feels they must explain themselves is already in a position of lower value. It communicates uncertainty. It suggests that you are worried about how you're being perceived. That need to be understood is rooted in the fear of being misunderstood. And fear in any form is deeply unattractive to the feminine. Women don't chase clarity, they chase uncertainty. They don't obsess over what they understand, they obsess over what they can't quite figure out. When a woman can't read your silence, she will fill in the blanks with her imagination. She will build stories in her mind, paint possibilities, and that is what keeps her emotionally engaged. That's what pulls her deeper into pursuit. But the moment you explain your silence, you strip away her ability to wonder. You give her closure, and closure is the enemy of obsession. The man who maintains power in the dynamic is the one who refuses to give her full closure. Not in a manipulative way, but in a subtle, emotionally detached way. His attitude says, "I'm doing what I need to do, and I don't owe anyone a narrative about it." That is what commands respect. That is what sparks chase. Now here's the twist. Women will often bait you into explaining. They'll ask questions like, "Why are you being distant?" Or "Are you mad at me?" Or "Did something happen?" These questions are not always about clarity. They're often about control. She wants to know if she still has access to your emotions. She wants to confirm whether or not she can still push your buttons. And if you fall for it, if you break the silence with paragraphs or emotional unloading, she gets her answer. She learns that your silence was fragile, that you weren't calm, you were waiting for her to notice, and that energy exposes you, the high, you man, the man who truly lives in his own frame, doesn't feel the pressure to respond to those emotional hooks. He may acknowledge them briefly, but he does so with minimal energy. He leaves space. He lets her sit in the tension, and this is where most men fail. They're silent for a short period, and the moment she reaches out, they cave. They respond too fast, with too much excitement, as if they were just waiting by the phone. But that cancels out the power of the distance you created, because the distance isn't just about time. It's about how you carry yourself when that time passes. Are you still emotionally centered? Are you still operating in your own world? Or are you secretly craving her attention, waiting for an excuse to come back into her orbit, because she will feel the difference? Women are intuitive. They don't listen to your words. They listen to the energy behind them. The less you explain, the more she has to feel . That's the secret. When you don't explain, you force her to sit with her own emotional response. Maybe she feels regret, maybe confusion, maybe curiosity. Whatever it is, she has to experience it without your guidance. And that lack of control over the emotional narrative causes her to seek you out more intensely. She begins the chase, not because you manipulated her into it, but because the space you created led her deeper into her own feelings. She starts to value your time more, your presence more, and that's when you reclaim your role as the prize. Your energy has to reflect a man who's not emotionally available for free. That doesn't mean you're heartless or closed off. It means your emotional space is earned, not given. And when she realizes that your attention comes without an explanation, without neediness, without emotional disclosure, it changes the way she approaches you. She stops expecting a response and starts working for one. She stops assuming you'll be there and begins wondering if she even qualifies for your time. That shift is massive. It turns you from a participant in her emotional world to a mystery she wants to decode. Never forget this. Your silence becomes a source of power only when it's backed by emotional independence. And one of the clearest signs of that independence is your refusal to explain. Let her feel the space. Let her sit in the unknown. Let her initiate the reconnecting process, and even then, meet her halfway. Never fully. You are not a book she gets to read whenever she wants. You are a story she has to earn the right to discover. And every time you explain your distance, you skip chapters for her. Keep the pages closed. Let her chase the plot. One of the biggest mistakes men make when trying to reclaim their power or trigger a woman's desire is rewarding her for minimal effort. They confuse a simple text, a cute emoji, or a quick call with true investment. But here's the truth. A woman who genuinely desires you will pursue you, not just reach out to test the waters. And if you want her to chase you like crazy, you must understand one simple principle: reward effort, not presence. Her being there is not enough. Her showing up occasionally or giving you some attention doesn't mean she values you. That's baseline behavior. You don't win a king by merely being in his kingdom. You earn his attention by contributing to it, by proving you deserve access to his throne. When a woman starts to feel your absence, her first instinct may not be to pour herself into you. It may be subtle, a small text like "hey," or a random meme, or a short question like "what are you up to?" Don't be fooled by that. That's not pursuit. That's her way of checking if she still has emotional control over you. It's not about reconnecting. It's about reassurance. She wants to see if her minimal energy still results in your maximum attention. And the moment you take that bait and respond eagerly, the dynamic resets. She knows she still has you. She knows you're still emotionally available. And she doesn't have to try any harder. That's when the chase dies. Because women don't chase what they already feel they own. So, what do you do when she reaches out with minimal effort? You hold the line. You respond, if at all, with the same level of effort. If her message is low effort, your reply should be low effort, or none at all. You match her energy not out of spite, but out of principle, because your attention has value, your time has weight, and your presence should never be freely given to someone who hasn't earned it. When she starts sending longer messages, asking deep questions, initiating real conversations, making plans, or showing genuine vulnerability, that's when you give a bit more. That's when you reward the effort, not just the contact. Here's what happens when you start rewarding effort and not presence. She levels up. She starts to realize that you're not like the other men. The other guys would have folded at the first text. They would have jumped back into the dynamic without thinking. But you're calibrated, you're calm, you're selective, and that selectivity triggers a deep desire to win your approval. It awakens something primal. She wants to be chosen, but now she understands that your choice isn't automatic. She has to earn it. She has to qualify herself, and women who truly desire you will rise to that challenge. They'll begin to send thoughtful messages. They'll ask to see you. They'll compliment you. They'll invest emotionally, physically, mentally, because they want to secure their place in your life. This also creates something even more powerful, a feedback loop of pursuit. Every time she invests and you respond positively, but selectively, she gets a dopamine hit. She begins to associate effort with reward, but the moment she slacks or pulls back, she notices your energy drop again, not as punishment, but as a natural reaction. And now she's locked into a pattern. Pursue more, receive more. Pursue less, receive less. That loop builds obsession. She starts chasing, not because you're ignoring her, but because you've trained her to understand the value of your attention. And people value what they work for. People respect what they earn. The more she chases, the more invested she becomes, not just in you, but in the idea of winning you. It's crucial to understand that this isn't about manipulation. It's about balance. Most men give too much, too soon, for too little. They're so eager to get attention that they don't realize how cheap it becomes in the process. But when your attention is scarce, deliberate, and tied to genuine effort, it becomes priceless. A woman who feels she has to work for your time will not only chase harder, she'll also appreciate it more when she gets it. She won't take you for granted. She won't play games. She won't invest and expect the world in return. Because she knows that every message, every moment, every interaction is part of a standard you hold, not just for her, but for yourself. This is why rewarding effort is a reflection of your self-worth. A man who values himself doesn't just give his time away. He doesn't entertain low-effort energy. He filters, he observes, he measures, he waits. And when a woman shows up with genuine pursuit, he meets her there, but he never abandons his standard. That's what makes him powerful. That's what makes him irresistible, because women are used to being chased. They're used to men breaking their boundaries, dropping their schedules, sacrificing their self-respect just to get a little attention. But you're different. You don't need her. You're open to her. But only if she shows you that she's serious, that she's ready to give as much as she wants to receive. And the moment she realizes that your attention is not guaranteed, that it's a reward, not a given, she will shift. Her energy will change. Her effort will increase. She'll pursue with a kind of urgency that only comes when a woman knows that what she wants can't be easily replaced. Because you're not just a man, you're a standard. And when a man becomes a standard, the chase is inevitable. Most men operate from a place of emotional availability because they think it's the right way to show interest. They've been told that being open, vulnerable, and expressive will win a woman's heart. But what they don't realize is that over accessibility kills mystery, and mystery is the lifeblood of desire. Women don't obsess over what they fully understand. They become emotionally invested in what they can't quite reach, what they feel they're close to getting, but not yet owning. So when you become emotionally unavailable, not as a game, but as a lifestyle, you completely rewire her emotional experience with you. You stop being the guy who's always there, and you become the man who must be earned. That difference is everything, because the moment she feels she can lose your attention, she starts chasing to keep it. Emotional unavailability doesn't mean you're cold, detached, or incapable of feeling. It means your emotions are not on display for everyone to access. It means you're selective with who gets your vulnerability. You don't vent to her. You don't look to her for comfort. and you don't make her the center of your emotional universe. You stay grounded, centered, and self-contained. She sees that you don't need her to feel good. You don't need her to feel validated. And you certainly don't need her to feel like a man. That energy is intoxicating because it's rare. Most men give their hearts away too soon. They fall too quickly, reveal too much, and make her their emotional anchor without ever asking themselves if she's even worthy of that position. When you're emotionally unavailable, you break the cycle she's used to. Most men try to win her affection by giving more texts, more compliments, more attention, more emotional energy, but you reverse that. You give less. You're not quick to express how you feel. You don't react emotionally to her tests or her silence. You don't explain your feelings in lengthy paragraphs, hoping she'll understand you better. Instead, you remain grounded in your masculine frame, responding with composure, or sometimes not at all. And that calm detachment pulls her in. She becomes curious. She starts analyzing your behavior. She tries to figure out what's going on inside your head. And that act of trying to understand you that effort is where the emotional investment begins. You don't have to say much for her to feel the emotional distance. She feels it in how little you initiate. She feels it in the way you avoid deep emotional exchanges unless they're truly necessary. She feels it when you disappear into your own world without giving her updates or seeking her reaction. And this silence isn't empty. It's powerful. It signals that your life is full, your mind is busy, and your emotions are not up for grabs. You're not hers to figure out. She has to earn her way into your emotional space. That challenge triggers her deeper instincts. It activates the feminine need to connect. And when that connection isn't immediately available, she works harder to create it. She chases, and here's the truth. Women don't chase the man who is emotionally open from day one. They chase the man who appears emotionally whole without them. A man who knows who he is, where he's going, and doesn't bend for emotional comfort. She wants access to your heart, but you keep the gates closed, not because you're bitter or broken, but because you know your value. You know that love without standards leads to disappointment. You know that the more she works to unlock your heart, the more she'll respect what she finds inside. And that respect is what keeps the dynamic strong. There's also another layer to emotional unavailability. It creates emotional scarcity. When your validation is rare, it becomes valuable. A compliment from you means more because it's not given to every woman. Your affection is felt more deeply because it's not constant. And when she finally does get a glimpse of your emotions, a subtle compliment, a short expression of appreciation, a rare smile, it feels like a reward. It feels earned. That feeling becomes addictive. She starts chasing not just for your time or your presence, but for the emotional currency you rarely hand out. You train her to associate effort with reward. You condition her to see your approval as something worth striving for. This dynamic builds long-term attraction, because what starts as curiosity becomes investment. She starts planning conversations, wondering how to impress you, putting in emotional work to stay close to you. She doesn't want to lose your attention because it wasn't handed to her. It was *1. And that win feels like an achievement. That's what sets you apart from the rest. You're not just another emotionally eager man looking for love. You're a grounded, disciplined, emotionally controlled masculine force who knows that the more available you are, the less value you project. Emotional unavailability, when done right, is not cruelty, it's control. It's the ability to remain stoic in chaos, still in pressure and unaffected by fleeting emotions. That self-control creates tension, and tension creates desire. She'll chase because you've shown her that her usual methods don't work. She'll chase because she wants to feel chosen by a man who doesn't choose easily. And most of all, she'll chase because she senses that behind that emotional wall is a man of depth, power, and substance. And that discovery is worth every ounce of effort she can give. So when you learn to ignore her the right way, with emotional control, purposeful distance, and self-respect, you don't push her away, you pull her in, not through manipulation but through power, a silent, masculine power that doesn't beg, chase, or explain. The more you elevate yourself, the more she feels the absence of your energy, and in that absence, desire is born. You become the mystery she wants to solve, the presence she wants to earn, and the man she can't stop thinking about. The chase doesn't begin when you talk more. It begins when you master the art of doing less with confidence.